As we know,
Right.
China is crazy amazing. We're going to look at Baijiu. Baijiu is the biggest selling alcoholic drink in the world. Okay, Mao
Yes, I
Tai, a
know.
particular
Hmm.
brand, the most famous brand made famous by Mao Zedong, who always served Mao Tai everywhere. And Mao Tai was the wasn't it that won a trophy, won the biggest accolade trophy at the 1913 World Fair, those expos, the World Expos. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
1913 Panama Expo, Baijiu won the accolade. Okay, so today, production of Baijiu is something like 19 billion liters, and is the biggest biggest drinks. I don't. I'm not an economist, but it's worth like I don't know how many, just as much, $19 billion.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Baijiu
Yeah.
by is the sales of Baijiu is bigger than all four of the Diageo's, da 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 da. Those drinks companies put together. So you got to know about
Does
Baijiu.
Mao Tai still
Oh yeah, Mao
does
Tai's
Mao Tai
still
still
around.
exist?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
And is it state run?
I think you're right. They're probably still state owned. But let's look a bit of
Uh-huh.
history of Baijiu. Baijiu,
Okay.
the first Baijiu was only produced in the 13th century. We talked about the alembics moving from the
Yeah.
fifth century AD, I think. Okay, slowly moving its way, big still, going to China. It wasn't until the 13th century that China got its first stills to actually distill
That's
alcohol.
surprising.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Actually, to be honest, I think distilled alcohol for drinking didn't actually happen till around then. I think whiskey
Okay.
was around that. I mean, by the time we got it
Yeah, I
in
guess
the
so. Yeah.
UK, it was like the 16th century. So we're
I
just
always
as
think
late.
of China starting everything
Yeah,
way, way, way before anyone else.
exactly. I mean, China, I am told that China, yeah, invented lots of things, okay? And they even have a list of sort of like national treasures of which they invented gunpowder, paper, um, silk. Come on, help me. Silk and
Oh,
distillation. Baiju's one of them.
I have and I have two of them: pasta and ice cream.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go.
Yep.
So yeah, ice cream. Yeah, you're right.
Noodles and
Yeah,
ice cream.
noodles, ice cream. Yeah, yeah, paper, um,
Yeah,
gunpowder,
everything.
and writing. I think they were the first as well that came up with writing,
Yes, I think so too.
calligraphy. Anyway, so Baiju was one of them. And what did they do? We talked about Chinese rice wine. We talked about how they make wine. They figured out very quickly by turning this rice wine into Baiju, made it last longer. But hey, Chinese being Chinese realized that was a long, long, long method of doing it. You got to make the rice wine, which is nice and drinkable. Why are you then turning it into a distillate? Baiju, production.
Right.
I'm not going to talk much about history because I don't think we have time, but production
Okay.
of Baiju is totally, totally different. We talked about the
Oh,
four ingredients in making sake. Baiju can be is normally made with, again, cereals that the Chinese don't eat. So rice is very rare because, again, rice is a staple food of the Chinese. They have to eat. Wheat, again, is
right.
for noodles, northern China, where you can't grow rice, they have to eat. So Baiju, alcohol, like Japan, like the rest of the world, everybody likes alcohol. Everybody likes to be happy. You got to find something else to make alcohol with. So they were using maize, millet, sorghum.
Oh,
Sorghum
no
and millet
way.
are very similar, right? Sorghum
Right.
uh, originated from Africa, and sorghum is a very hardy crop. It crops like twice a year, easy to grow. It can grow in deserts, it can grow anywhere, but not terribly interesting to eat. So, sorghum, millet is another thing where only, as we know it, only birds eat millet where we
Right.
where we live. Okay, in the West, where we're too spoiled. So millet, they use um, barley, some barley, but they've got this. I think I mentioned to you, or I've mentioned before, a interesting cereal called Job's Tears. You can go look it up in Wikipedia. It's a type of barley
Okay.
that's very much available, sort of again, Africa, in the deserty areas into China. So Job's Tears. If you drink Chinese, what we call barley water, is not barley, it's actually Job's Tears. And
Okay.
a bit of rice. Sometimes a little bit of rice is put in just to make it more rounded. Okay, so same thing. You gotta steam your cereals, and then you add your yeast in. That's the difference. Now, starter. When you make sourdough bread, you got to make your starter. When you make sake, you got to make your starter. With the Chinese, they got to make their starter. So the starter is called chu, Q-U. There are two types of
Okay.
chu. One is da chu. Da, again, is big. The big chu or the small chu, xiao chu. Big chu, da chu, is made from sort of cereals like you would. You need a substrate for this fungus and everything else to go in, and they use things like any kind of carbs they can find, peas, corn, I don't know, rice, millet, sorghum, everything. So they steam this stuff, they inoculate it with a whole bunch of things. Unlike the Japanese, where everything is separate, Chinese are like, yo, we're going to make millions and millions of liters of the stuff. We can't have
Right.
laboratories making tiny things in small packs. So they make the dachu. Dachu is the size of a brick. It has peas, it's got beans, it's got everything in it, plus the fungus. And the fungus that they put in isn't just one type because it takes too long to make one thing grow. So they've got rhizopus, they've got monascus, they have got aspergillus, they've got everything. They then throw in the yeast, okay, and their yeast is the same Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that viscerate, yeast, brewer's yeast, okay, is thrown in, and bacteria that help break down the cell walls of cereal. So everything is thrown in, mixed up, and then they're formed into bricks to ferment slowly. Okay, koji in the
Okay.
sake world takes 48 hours to create. This stuff is just made into bricks, and there are warehouses in these huge distilleries in China that are kilometers long. We're talking warehouses kilometers long with dachus all sitting in a warehouse
Waiting to be used.
fermenting,
Yeah.
creating
Yeah.
creating all the amylase, enzymes,
Yeah.
and whatever ready to be used. Okay, it takes about 6 months for a dachu to be ready. So that's dachu. Xiaoju, which is in little balls, which you can buy in the Chinese supermarkets here in the UK, is just made with rice powder and rhizopus and some sort of yeast, but none of the other bacteria put into it. Okay, so then you have got xiaoju. Okay, now fermentation of Baijiu. No, you don't have vats. No, you don't play with sort of like, machines trying to figure out how temperature and length of time, whatever. Baijiu is fermented in pits. We're talking
Oh.
huge, huge pits in the ground where steamed cereal is thrown in. Dachu, crushed up, thrown in. Spades, mixing it all around, and just left in pits in these warehouses, huge, huge 10-kilometer long warehouses to ferment. It takes probably about 6 months to ferment this cereal, yeah, into an
Yeah.
alcoholic form. Now, wait for
Okay.
this. These pits are never totally emptied. Now, with I think it's Wuliang Ye, which is a very, very famous distillery, some of its pits have been going for 600 years.
Oh my God. It must
600
be a
years.
wonder.
It is a
It must be a
wonder.
wonder to see it.
So what happens is when it's time to ferment, laborers will go in there and scoop out the bottom bits, okay, which is the stuff that's probably been put in earliest, right, straight into your
Right.
distiller. Baijiu is distilled solid. Yeah, it is not pressed and then liquid distilled. It is solid distillation. Okay, so this stuff is shoved into your big, huge still, continuous distillation. All right, and the stuff that comes out is your Baijiu, and yes, of course, they've got your heads and your tails and your whatever, right?
Right.
And then the dis the I kasu is your the leftover from your distillation, or actually your fermentation, in this case distillation, is then thrown back into the pits to just
Right.
mix up again. Okay, and that's how it's done. Yeah, so your Baijiu is crazy stuff, continuously
Oh
distilled.
my God, I'd love to see it.
I haven't seen it myself. I was invited to China and I still haven't gone because of COVID. But I've seen, you can
Oh,
go on the internet. There will be videos. There will be no recipe, by the way. I cannot even tell you how the production process is because it's all secret. And in China, there is
I'm
a
sure.
government, there is a legislation where they are allowed to keep the recipe secret. And even the workers in these distillery, they don't know what other sections are doing. It's like Coca-Cola. Everything is kept secret all
Right.
along the way. Nobody knows exactly the full recipe. All right. And then they,
Right. It's like three people know it and it's kept in a locked
oh no,
box,
in
you
this
know.
case, it's not even three people know it. The three people know separate parts of it. They've written their separate parts of
Right,
it and
exactly.
it's kept into different boxes. So
Three
they
different boxes
never,
around the country.
yeah, and they're never ever um, let out. So anyway, that is the process, okay, of the distillation, and then the distillate is then matured in terracotta pots that are sort of buried. Okay, so they're actually buried and they're sealed, and it can take anything from, I don't know, an age through to hundreds of years. Okay, now the kind of Baijiu
Mhm.
we get in this country is already opened up, bottled, and sent over. The traditional, most expensive way of drinking Baijiu is to buy your unopened pot, brought into your restaurant or whatever, and open and drunk. But because the lids of the pots, um, they use things like straw and whatever to seal it because it needs to breathe a bit or whatever. I don't know because it's all secret, but things have to be breathing,
Uh-huh.
whatever. So we cannot import this into the UK purely because of
Okay.
our FDAs and our
Health and
whatever
safety.
health and safety stuff. So we will never see these pots come in. All right, but
Oh.
there it's literally like broken up and drunk.
And is
Okay,
it the same that you drink it neat, a certain
okay,
temperature, etc.?
okay.
Oh boy.
Baijiu, Chinese.
Uh-huh.
The traditional way of drinking Baijiu is at big, huge, amazing banquets in China, right? This may sound
Okay.
terrible, okay, but the more magnanimous you are, the more expensive the Baijiu is, and the more you can afford
Okay.
to give your guests. All right, so banquet
Right.
food just keeps coming out. You get little cups. Oh shucks, I should have brought one to show, but we can take pictures. The Baijiu cup is beautiful. Okay, it comes. The one I've seen is about this high. It's like about 10 cm. One side is a small measure, top it round, the other side is a big measure, and it sits both sides because it looks like a little hourglass, so it sits both ends. So if you're a
Uh-huh.
female, you probably put the little one, unless you want to drink more, and males can
Right.
have the big one. And the way it's drunk is in one shot, and the word gambe
Okay.
is used. Yeah, cheers, gambe, you use it. So all through dinner you keep sipping this or drinking it or whatever. And old style Chinese banquets, because Chinese, this is a very interesting fact. Chinese, only 50% of the world population of Chinese have got an enzyme that can break down alcohol. I'm one of the lucky ones. My
Oh.
husband is not so lucky. He cannot drink much alcohol. If he drinks even a glass of red wine, he goes red, he feels very ill. Some people, get rashes, whatever. So a lot of Chinese cannot drink.
No, I had no idea.
Oh, didn't you? I've got
Um,
another whole thing on that. Again, we have no time to look into that today. But
no, one more question about Baijiu, drinking it. as it's the most popular and it's sold so much, I assume that, and this, I could totally be wrong with this assumption, that it's not just drunk at these events.
Mm.
Do people drink it daily in their daily lives? Is there less expensive or not expensive, but just no,
I
no.
don't know because I mean,
Oh,
in a Chinese home, we don't tell each other how much alcohol we drink, and 50%
no,
of us
I'm,
can't drink.
yeah, no, I was just like,
In
it's not
China,
something that's sake. Yes, in
in
China.
China, yeah, it's only used as a celebration thing. There are
Okay.
cheaper, I believe there are cheaper everyday drinking Baijius, but I'm talking the really expensive ones. I'm talking
Right.
a bottle of normal Mao Tai can cost you up to £600.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
and an aged bottle of Mao Tai could be, I think, okay, a bottle of Mao Tai. I was checking this up. Christie's sold a bottle of Mao Tai for £237,000. Mm, one
Oh
bottle, one
boy, I
bottle.
want to go to that party.
Okay, and yeah, I think the most expensive bottle I have is a £12,000 special edition Mao Zedong Mao Tai. Okay, that's twelve thousand
Oh, how
pounds.
exciting! We're all going to
So
come to
we're
your house for that
so I'm
party.
not opening that. It's sitting hidden away. But anyway, Baijius can cost anything from about £30 and up to, as I said, hundreds of thousands. But let's look at Baiju as a category. Okay, we've roughly worked out how it's made. It's very, very, very complicated. But in terms of Baiju, we're talking of different categories of Baiju. There are 13 different aromas. Now, the Chinese, we talk about wine. We talk about wine. We describe a wine by the variety of the grape. Yeah, we describe it by white, rosé, or red. In sake, we've got the 8 different categories. With
Mhm.
Baiju, there are 13 ranging from light
Okay.
aroma, and they call it by aroma because the Chinese taste Baijiu by the smell, by the taste, by the look, and they describe a Baijiu very differently from us in the West. Now, when you say a Baijiu has sweetness, there are different types of sweetness. You're talking the sweetness as in sweet water. Here, sort of a sweet water is probably like spring water to a hard type of water,
Okay.
calcified London 9 times recycled. So when they describe Baiju, when they talk sweet, they'll say, oh, sweet as water, sweet as sugar. There are
Okay.
different explanations of
Hmm.
sweet. Sweet as in umami. Now, in umami, we think, oh, umami, what do you mean sweet? Now, when you taste a prawn, you taste the sweetness of a prawn. Yeah.
All right. Of course.
Yeah. You say a
Yeah.
prawn is sweet, but that
Yeah.
sweet
Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
sugar sweet. It's sweet. So with Baiju,
Right.
same thing. It's the description is very different. And they always say, as salty as bitter as, or whatever. They don't just say, like us, oh, the wine is sour. It's got a lot of acid. The Chinese would say it's sour like something. So it gives the person a chance of trying to understand a lot more. So they're very, very clever. So with Baijiu, there are 13 aromas: light, strong, mixed, sauce, because some of them actually taste of soy sauce, so sauce flavor. Then you have got
Ooh.
phoenix flavor. You have got, it goes on, there are 13. And the most weird one is pork flavor. Now, pork flavor is truly pork. What they do is after just I think just before they distill a whole, or just after they distill or during distillation, a whole chunk of like smoked pork, hamon, that kind of stuff is thrown and steeped into the baijiu. And so when that's redistilled, it is distilled after, don't worry. And then uh, it's actually known as pork flavor. It really, G meaning
Oh
pork.
my God. I think it's
I haven't tasted it. I
that would
haven't had
make
the
an
chance,
amazing,
but
amazing Bloody Mary.
yeah, yeah, it's the savoriness in it. Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
that's Baiju for you. And what else do you want to know about Baiju? Serving. A lot of Baiju now is put into cocktails. And I believe about 4 years ago, there was a Baiju cocktail competition, and it was won by an Italian chap, young guy, And boy, oh boy, his taste was amazing. And he created this Baijiu cocktail using a piece of wood. You probably know more than I do, from Colombia, from somewhere in South America, where the smoke of that wood was infused into this Baijiu
Uh-huh.
cocktail. And it was absolutely delicious.
That sounds amazing. Now, temperature, is it served room
Yeah,
temperature at these?
room temperature or
Yeah.
with a block of ice. Baijiu, you can actually add hot water as well. You can do anything to just dilute it, but it is not generally sort of used with mixers because the taste of Baijiu is so complex. There's I can't even explain to you because your first taste of Baijiu, you're going to go, oh, Jesus Christ, you know, because it's just so different. I promise you. I mean, I judge Baijius. I remember the first time I went into a room and and we had to do 70 Baijius that day. And just the smell of Baijiu when you walked into the building, not even the room, I just stood back and thought, oh my God, what have I put myself into? There is this crazy complexity, everything from every cereal you can think of. The nose is floral, it's fruity, it's got that crazy acidity, it's got cereal, it's earthy, it's mushroomy, it's crazy, crazy, even moldy in the early days. But today, because of China's technology, it is amazing. They have cleaned up so much in the last sort of 15 years of my judging. Today, I am just sort of so excited going in for a Baijiu competition. They are so delicious. Today, they're floral. You can, I kind of, the tropical fruit, the guava, the papaya, the pineapple, and the savoriness, the umami. It's crazy. But ABV, they're generally around
Yes.
53%. That is today's Baijiu.
Oh boy.
Um, Older Baijus in the old days was more like 45, 40, 45. You still get those, but generally, rule of thumb is 50 to 58%. So don't go crazy on it. Okay, so you've got 13
Well,
aromatics. Okay, the
yeah.
13 aromas. And then the Chinese, of course, are very much into their herbal, yeah, their herbal tinctures for
Right.
health, for vitality. And I think, Susan, you had a bottle you showed me of a light flavored
Yes.
Baijiu made in
Yes.
the Shanxi
It
district
is.
by a company called Fenju, very
Yes. Of
big
course, I put it
company. You put
away
it
and
away,
I
don't
can't
worry.
find it.
It's delicious, and it's one of those examples
Yes.
of a herb infused tincture. And what they do there is they create the Baijiu, and in that case, it's a light flavor. So it's got very little aromatics because it's got to take in the herbs. That particular bottle you have has been infused with about 21 different types of herbs, including bamboo leaves and bamboo. And then once that concoction is filtered, sugar has been added to it, fructose. So it's more like a liqueur. So there you are, an example of a liqueur style Baijiu that the Chinese feel would be more acceptable in the West. Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
so and
delicious.
if I wanted to serve
Mm,
that, in fact, this could well two things before we go on. If because I'm super interested now, and now I want to know every single thing about everything. If I wanted to, and since we are in London, where can people find out more? Like if they wanted to try Baijiu, if they wanted to try Soju and Shochu, we kind of know where we can get sake.
yeah,
It's pretty
yeah.
much ubiquitous now. But how about those other things? Where could we try them in London?
Okay, a lot of the bars, hotel bars, now serve baijus and shochus, and soju. Soju's not so much because that's more of a Korean restaurant. You can definitely drink that there. But baiju certainly in Chinese restaurants, and if you care to buy yourself a bottle, places like the big department stores like Harvey Nichols, Harrods, um, online. You can buy them. A lot of the stuff is
Hmm.
available online now. Okay, um, Cheng International is one of my sponsors, and they are distributors of Baijiu and Huangjiu, which we haven't talked about, but we will shortly. Um, um, yeah, they will sell these spirits, and they are available a lot in the more sort of hip bars. Shoreditch side, East End of London, that's where everything is
Okay.
sprouting, younger population. They're willing to try stuff. Down there, you probably get baijius to taste. And a lot of fusion restaurants are now bringing in baijiu and shochu. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention about shochu, which I've already done for baijiu, is that the production of shochu in the distillation, being Japanese, sorry, you might want to cut this back in, is
No,
that
I have no. Go ahead.
basically shochu is done by single distillation. All right. And within the single distillation, in other words, once it goes in, it comes out, you've got your shochu. There are different styles. You can have it vacuum or normal. When you say vacuum, basically the whole thing is vacuum, so the temperature of distillation is a lot lower. So if you're going to distill a pot of shochu at a lower temperature, it means that it keeps a lot of the esters that otherwise would have been lost at 100 degrees steam going up. Vacuum it, boil at your boiling temperature will be around 50, 58. It just means that the stuff coming
Right.
through will have a lot more aromatics in it. So that was something I really forgot to mention. And with shochu serving, there are 5 different ways of serving shochu. One, neat, on the rocks, diluted with room temperature water, diluted with hot water. And the 5th method is where you decant, say, half a pot of your shochu. Again, 50-50, 60-40, whatever you want, right? Dilute it, put in very, very clean water, mix it a bit, leave it overnight to just mellow through, and then that is drunk in a glass as is.
Okay.
Okay, so shochu is very, very special. And I mentioned 5 different types of shochu. I forgot to also mention that the brown sugar shochu tastes very similar to rum. It is made by sugarcane, and
Oh,
unlike rum, it's pure sugarcane juice that is squeezed, okay, and then turned into blocks of brown sugar, and then thrown into a big fermentation pot. But koji has to be put in. And you're going to say to me, Marie, you're a crazy woman.
okay.
What do you mean koji has to be put in? It's already brown sugar. But to classify as shochu, Japanese shochu,
Yeah.
all Japanese liquor must have koji. That defines
Okay,
a
if you learn one
Japanese
thing here today, all Japanese liquor has to have koji.
koji. Okay, not Japanese whiskey. Japanese whiskey is whiskey made in the traditional whiskey way. If they have Japanese gin, it is made Japanese gin, European Western style gin, but made in Japan. I'm
Okay,
talking
I'm sorry.
Japanese liquor, i.e.,
Japanese liquor.
sake and shochu has got to have a bit of koji in it. Otherwise, it's about taxes.
Okay.
Shochu, a bottle of barley shochu, which can taste very much like whiskey, will only cost you in Japan probably like 20 quid. The same bottle of whiskey, Japanese whiskey, would be hundreds. Okay, so I thought I just mentioned
Got
that.
it.
Got it? Okay, and
No,
just
no,
to prove to
absolutely.
you,
Absolutely.
this is a bottle of Japanese gin kinobi. It's proper gin, but it has Japanese sort of infusions in it, like I don't know, yuzu and that kind of stuff, rather than just juniper berries.
Hmm.
Baijiu, similar to the bottle you had, I was hoping you'd bring it out. This is the bamboo um, Baijiu made by Fenju, but this is a 30-year-old Fenju with just only bamboo leaves. Yours had the non-age Baijiu with 12 different herbs, including, or 21 different herbs, including bamboo and whatever, plus sugar. Then we've got from the same company that made your bottle and this Fenju is the Fenjo. This is a 30, 40-year-old Fenjo that's available in this country at Harvey Nichols and online and everything, light flavored. And then for fun, I wanted to mention that Baijiu is not just made in China. This is a Taiwanese made Baijiu. Okay, so Taiwan makes it as well. It makes fantastic Baijiu. And in Taiwan, it is actually called Gaoliang. Gaoliang meaning cereal. Okay, and this is a 12-year-old bottle of Baijiu. What else have I got? Shochu, sweet potato shochu, made in Japan in a beautiful bottle. And then sake, as we all know, come in these bottles. Another interesting fact with sake, the bottles are not 750 ml, they're only 720. Okay, just to confuse things. So that causes a
Yep.
lot of
All right. Right.
problems, a lot of problems with shochu and this stuff because they come in wrong sizes, and Texas, when they enter this country, goes mental. Okay. Uh, yeah, so there's so much to learn about it, but that's your typical bottle of sake. This is a Junmai Daiginjo top end with a 39% polish. So it comes in a beautiful bottle. Okay, and I haven't talked about measurements in Japan, but again, they don't measure in mils. And in Japan, the original way of measuring was in their own Japanese style by 18s by 18 mils, because a cup of rice was measured by by this little um, wooden box, and that could contain 18 mils, and that was how much rice a person would eat a day. So sake was measured in that same little cup, and it's 18 mils. So you bottles go by sort of 18 mils for a cup, and then it goes on to 180 mils for the smallest bottle. Then they stop. They use 300 mil for a little bottle. Then it goes up to 720, which is 4 times 180 of that little cup. And then it goes, and an ishobin, which is the big bottle equivalent to our Magnum, but that is 4 of these bottles, which is 1.5 liters, 1.8 liters rather than our 1.5 liters in a Magnum.
I guess that's why you get it sometimes served in a little box.
That's it.
In
Yeah, that
yes,
little
it
box,
all
sorry, is
comes around.
180 mils.
Yes, oh, got it.
18 mils is the little
Okay.
choco, a little
Yes.
cup, right? Then 180 mils is in that little box. Yeah, and sometimes they serve you a 18 mil, but inside the box so that it
Yes, of course.
flows over. And now, when drinking sake, you're always meant to fill to the very top to show your hospitality. So that's why they put it in the box so that they can overflow it.
Hmm.
You should always overflow. And if you go to a restaurant that doesn't give you a glass that overflows, they're not very hospitality conscious. There are other Asian countries that make alcohols and spirits. I mean, we know that Thailand makes a rice whiskey. The Mekong whiskey is made from rice and not from barley or wheat. Philippines makes its own rum now, but it also has a different alcohol that's made with palm sugar, palm. Malaysia, we have a lot of rice wine made locally. Sarawak, Sabah, Indonesia, there are all sorts of different fermented drinks. Um, Indonesia, Malaysia have got what they call tapai. Tapai is like fermented rice, and you eat it like a cake. What else? Oh gosh, arak. Arak is just meaning alcohol. That was India. India has got that, and as we know, India also produces its own sort of wines and other things. And of course, you've got Japanese and Chinese wines. You've got lots of other things. I mean, it's crazy, Susan. There's just so
It's
much in the Far
endless. It's
East.
endless. As I said, we're the Whistle Stop Tour
Yeah.
101.
Yep.
I think we've done very well. And of course, if people want to know more about sake, they can always do the WSET course
Yes, of
in
course.
sake,
In
which you
sake, which
teach.
I teach. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's a lovely little plug. I also teach the Shochu course. So you can, look me up and anytime. And of course, any of your viewers, if they see me, please come up to me and say hi. I won't bite, I promise. And love to meet anybody
I,
interested in eating, drinking like you and I.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, I always end with two questions.
Okay.
One is, and okay, we're going to try. I think you've kind of already answered this, but I usually ask for the top tip for the home bartender. I guess the top tip for anyone who really wants to, as I said, we probably answered this, but maybe bring some of these spirits and wines that we've talked about into the house. I guess you suggest maybe just going to your local wine store and
Uh,
asking,
no, wine stores.
or what do you think?
Uh-uh. Um,
Or
your best
Asian
bet.
supermarkets?
Asian supermarkets for your
Yeah.
Baijiu and some sakes, but their sakes are not going to be terribly good. But I think, you know what, the
Okay.
best thing is to go online. All right, if you go online,
Okay.
there are so many places now that sell it, and I'm gonna plug my great friend uh, Ollie Hilton Johnson at Tengu Sake. He has got an amazing range of sakes, really good prices. Okay, and Ollie, if you're there, you know, please help all Susan's viewers. He will send you the stuff. They always come in
Okay.
top condition. Okay, I use
Okay.
Ollie all the time. You can go to the Japan Center.
Perfect.
You can go to who else? The Japan Center is a good one. Natural in Ealing. They've now got a separate store that sells sake. There's lots of places. Just go online. But certainly, if you need help, Ollie Hilton
Okay.
Johnson, he will help you. His website tells you everything. It gives you sort of like tasting notes, flavor profiles. He's amazing, and
Okay.
order it next day. It comes and it's in perfect condition, chilled. So a little motorbike guy
Oh
comes
my
and
goodness.
he's
Just open, right. The guy comes
yep,
and you open it and you're drinking sake.
and you're drinking
And
sake.
last but not least,
Yes.
if you could drink anything anywhere in the world right now, where would that be?
Okay. Because like you, we drink so much stuff. Yeah, we have tasted so much, but there's so
Mhm.
much more. So much more. You know what? Right now, I'm planning a trip to Bhutan. So I'm going to say, if I had a chance, my next drink is going to be sitting in Bhutan, whether it's on a mountain, on a little step in a village, but I want to try the Bhutanese ara. Now, and you're going to say to me, what on earth is she freaking talking about? And ara is this fermented rice wine or cereal wine that they make. I have no idea what it tastes like. You cannot buy it in Bhutan. Only you can only drink it if somebody offers it to you. They make it at home. So it's got to be ara. And if it's non-alcoholic, anywhere in the world right now, again, only because I haven't tried it, is the Bhutanese butter tea. It's supposed to be savory.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there you go. My
Oh
two
my gosh.
tips at the moment is to be able to try these two things. So on that
I
note,
have a feeling, oh my God, that we might be having a whole session on those
yeah,
Bhutanese
yeah,
spirits and wines.
yeah.
So check it out
Check.
later.
Yeah, much
Listen,
later.
I can't thank you enough for taking so much time with me to do Asian, as I'm saying, rice wine and spirits 101. We will come back and do more, but this has been, I have learned so much. So thank you. Thank you again for spending so much time with me.
No problem, Susan. And good luck in this. And anytime, just anybody, if you see me out there, I'm sure you recognize me. Just holler out and say, "Hi, Marie," and ask me questions. Okay,
All right, you're
wherever I
so
am in the
kind. You're
world.
so kind. Well, have a great trip to Bhutan, and
Will
we
do.
will talk to you when you get back.
Thank you, Susan. And once again, thank you all for listening. And hope to see all of you somewhere, sometime, USA, UK, America, Far East, I don't care where, but you'll catch me in some market, some street corner, or fishing from some boat. Alrighty. Thank you,
Fabulous.
Susan. Thank you.